They are the Insiders, Bob McKenzie and Pierre LeBrun. A couple of weeks ago, Pierre, we were having an interesting conversation right here on Insider Trading that maybe we could see Jon Cooper follow in the path of Barry Trotz, where you win the Stanley Cup and then move on to another team during the offseason. Well, one thing we do know for sure, while he could still win the Cup, he's not going anywhere. Jon Cooper is not.
Yeah, and all we knew at the time was that his deal was expiring and that both sides wanted to get a deal done. But you have to meet in the middle somewhere, and they finally did. And I think it was clearly important for Tampa and for Jon Cooper not to have this hang over the playoffs like it did a year ago for Washington and Barry Trotz. And by the way, for everyone to say that it didn't affect Washington because they ultimately won the Cup anyway, well, it did. They lost Barry Trotz. So this was important for both sides. Now, no details released as to what he's making now. His current salary is $2.25 million on his expiring deal. I've talked to some people in the NHL coaching fraternity who believe that his deal is worth north of $3.5 million a year, which would put him among the top 6 or 7 paid coaches in the National Hockey League.
And still widespread uncertainty as far as a lot of coaching positions go. There are still officially 6 vacancies where they right now do not have a full-time head coach. Anaheim. Dallas Eakins is considered a leading candidate in Anaheim, but there is expected to be a thorough search conducted postseason. Edmonton, I think right now, is more about getting a new GM than choosing the coach, because the GM would do that. Lots of speculation in Los Angeles that maybe Todd McLellan would be a leading candidate there, but nothing firm by any means. The focus on Ottawa now seems to be shifted to the team president hire, but absent of that, I would think Pierre Dorian, the general manager, is going to start the search in earnest once the regular season is over. And Scott Gordon in Philadelphia, interim head coach, he's rocketed up the charts, a possible full-time head coach. But I think the Flyers still want to consider all their options, especially if Joel Quenneville's a possibility. And finally, Craig Berube is quite likely to lose his interim head coach tag if unless Quenneville wanted a St. Louis homecoming. So those are the 6 that we're aware of.
All right, so those are the 6 vacancies that we know that we're aware of right now. Are there any of the hot spots we should be watching?
Well, I think there's 3 what you would call potential hot spots. Buffalo Sabres. Now, Jason Botterill, the general manager in Buffalo, was on record 3-4 weeks ago. Phil Housley's my guy. He's not going anywhere. I don't know that anything's necessarily changed on that, but you still have to wait to the end of the season for an official vote of confidence. In Florida, general manager Dale Talon is basically espousing the old, we're keeping all our options open. We're evaluating all options at the end of the season. That may not be good news for head coach Bob Boughner. There's lots of speculation that potentially a change could happen there, and a lot of people will want to try to tie Dale Talon to Joel Quenneville. They were together in Chicago. We will see the 3rd spot, and right now the focus in Minnesota is trying to make the playoffs, but people wonder about Bruce Boudreau, long-term future under general manager Paul Fenton, who did not hire him. But Boudreau's got a year left on his deal as a head coach and 2 more years as an advisor. They may not be in a hurry to pay money to a guy not to coach.
The New York Islander fans are still a little bit sour about losing their captain last year. John Tavares heard all about that in his return to the island. Could we see the Islanders lose another captain this offseason? I
was going to say, a little sour, Islanders fans with John Tavares. Yeah. Listen, it is interesting. I mean, Anders Lee has not yet signed a contract extension, and believe me, he wants to sign one. Lou Lamoriello, GM, absolutely remains a top priority for him and for the organization to get Anders Lee signed. My understanding is there's been dialogue on again, off again, really, since the start of the season. Neil Sheehy, Anders Lee's agent's been spotted at Islander practices and skates and games 5 or 6 times since October, and my sense is Sheehy will be there before the end of the regular season, again, to take another stab at this. Why it hasn't happened, I think it's term. I think that on the Anders Lee side of things, they want 7 or 8 years, and on the Islanders things, obviously below that.
And the New York Islanders, speaking of them, Oliver Wahlstrom, their 1st-round pick from last year, has informed Boston College that he's not going back to school. So he's obviously going to try and negotiate a deal here with the New York Islanders in the immediate future. And plan B, if he didn't get that deal done, he's got some options on the table in Europe. So keep an eye on Oliver Wahlstrom in the next number of days to see where he ends up.
Less than 2 weeks left to go in the regular season. Still loads of news for our insiders. This is Insider Trading.